Welcome to Hardwood Handicappers with Zach Cohen, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Zachary Cohen, VSiN.com senior editor with another episode of Hardwood Handicappers. Today is Thursday, January 29th. It is 9 a.m. Eastern, and I am joined by Jonathan Von Tobel today. We have a lot of picks for a very big NBA slate on this fine Thursday, and also a lot of news to get to, and I kind of want to start there. JVT, co-host of Money Moves, co-host of Pods of the Futures podcast. How are you doing?
I'm good. I have a long list of things that I do. I was giving Stormy crap the other day because she was listing those off, and I was like, oh, yeah, what about you? She's like, well, I'm on Money Moves. And I was like, yeah, that's right. But I'm doing good. It should be a good NBA slate. Yesterday was intriguing as well. The results weren't as fun, kind of lopsided, but the night game was pretty good, and looking forward to today. And the, I guess, new news that Giannis Antetokounmpo is, Zach, please get it correct, is looking for a new home.
Yeah. I don't know why they can't just word this the way that it should be worded, that he wants out. I mean, I don't know why he needs Rich Paul to come in potentially and be his agent to do it. But it's clear now that this is kind of ending, and hopefully it ends soon. But I did want to start there with the Giannis news, because I do think it's interesting kind of hearing now the teams that are interested, the packages that are out there. It does seem like he's going to be traded for an underwhelming return if they do end up trading him before the deadline instead of waiting for the offseason, because I don't know, we've talked about it a little bit on the side. We've talked about it a little bit on the show, but as long as teams like Houston and San Antonio, and even like to a lesser extent Atlanta, are not looking to get involved, the packages just aren't that good. So the teams that you're hearing right now are, you know, what, the Golden State Warriors, the New York Knicks, and the Miami Heat, all of which don't really have the assets that you would normally need to get a player of Giannis's caliber. But where do you think he's going to go? What do you think the best packages are? And what are your overall thoughts on the situation?
I mean, I think first off, do you think that Houston's recent little swoon changes their ideas? I mean, we're talking about them now. They just lost Steven Adams, obviously, for the rest of the season. You had a good point on that, and you pointed that out on Twitter. I think when you look at the way that they've been playing, again, yesterday, it's not like their half-court offense and just offense in general is going to get a ton better with Giannis out there, but it's just they've really been struggling. Now, a lot of those are symptoms of spacing, and again, Giannis ain't really fixing that. But for the most part, you do wonder if a team that had championship aspirations that is looking just slightly above average in a pretty good Western Conference at the top maybe changes it. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think Golden State would be a slight favorite. If we're assuming that it's just going to be these teams that are currently available right now, I think that's probably what you're looking at. The Jimmy Butler contract is the easy, manageable, hey, here's the money match, whatever. You get a somewhat young piece in Jonathan Kuminga, and you get a bevy of first-round picks, where you and I and Kelly were talking about this yesterday on the side. I'm not that thrilled personally with that, but maybe those late picks, if it goes all the way to like 2031 or whatever it is, because I think that's what they control their first-round picks to, if I remember correctly, then that maybe that 2031 pick is maybe a pretty good piece to have. One's going to assume that Steph Curry's not still in the league, and if he is, he's not with the Golden State Warriors, that maybe they're just Giannis and a bunch of pieces, or maybe even Giannis isn't there. Who knows? And so that seems to be the most attractive. It seems to be the easiest, and as Brian Windhorst said yesterday on ESPN, that is the one with the least issues. That is a one-to-one, Bucks, Warriors, here's the package, take it or leave it, and that seems to be one that probably is the leader of the pack.
Yeah, and the Warriors one also, like, I was thinking about it a little bit. If Butler comes back and plays decent basketball to start the season,
yes,
you could probably also flip him for another asset down the road at the deadline maybe next year. So that's another added element of that.
Because he's an expiring, by the way, for your audience. Like, if, at that point, he'll be an expiring contract. So if he plays well, you can flip him for something if you're Milwaukee.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he would still have value if he looks anything like the player he was this year, even though, you know, the offensive aggression kind of went away. Still a really good two-way player, and I do think that players, like even at his age, do tend to come back from that injury pretty strong. It's the Achilles that's a little bit more concerning. So
yeah,
hopefully, you know, he's able to come back from the ACL. But yeah, I did tweet the thing about Houston. I don't know that they're actually going to have the balls to do it, but like the math works pretty perfectly for Van Vliet, Adams, Shepherd, Eason, and Capella. And then whatever, 2-3 first-round picks for Giannis and Rollins. So you kind of also address your point guard position if you make that type of move.
Be pretty good.
I think that'd be a pretty good move. I'm with you, though. Like, I don't know what the spacing would look like, and the team is already just awful from that standpoint. Like last night, I don't want to talk too much about that game, but like they pretty much lost that game because Amen Thompson can't shoot the ball. Like
Yeah.
there were multiple turnovers towards the end of the game. They were just kind of giving him all the space in the world. And that ended up being like him running over to Durant and handing it off to him, scared to try to make plays offensively. And I just don't know what that would look like with Giannis, because I also think that like Şengün, Giannis, Thompson, all very similar in the way that they kind of operate. And you'd just be putting a lot on Durant, and then if you even get Rollins. But like, yeah, it's just you just wouldn't really have a lot of outside creation. But I do think that maybe it's the type of move that you make it and you figure it out later.
Yeah, I mean, because in theory, it's still not like perfect, but if you get that, if that's like your front court, we'll call it, and then you have Reed, Shepherd, because I mean, does he move in that package? I guess would Shepherd probably be part of it?
I think so.
Yeah, because then I was thinking like if you could somehow hold on to Shepherd, then you're talking about Shepherd and Fred VanVleet when he comes back, and if you have those two, that's not a terrible like floor spacing duo in the backcourt to at least make guys think about, hey, I have to get out there. But you're right. I mean, one of the brilliant adjustments yesterday was Mitch Johnson was just like, all right, cool, let's put Wemby on Amen Thompson and just have him help off every time and just dare him to shoot. And that didn't really work out for him. But like I texted you yesterday, don't you, and you alluded to it, if you're Houston, if you can make the deal, don't you just try to grind through whatever you have this year and try to assess the spacing in the offseason? Because at the end of the day, you can talk to Giannis and say, bro, we've got you, we've got Şengün, we've got Amen Thompson, so that's going to be a package for the foreseeable future. We've got KD for now. This is a team that if you let us figure out the spacing and the shooting in the offseason, we'll be one of the best teams in the Western Conference.
I would do it. Yeah. I think that they're not that close to winning right now. I think that they're a little bit further away than we thought. And the Adams injury does kind of take away their entire identity of like what they had been trying to make this team into the first half of this season and, towards the end of last season. So I do think that they're a little bit further away from winning than we kind of thought at the beginning of the year. I was really high on them to start the season, but I do think that they probably need to shake something up, especially with that VV and Adams out. So I do think that that's a move that they should probably make if it's an option. And I do think that that's the best package that you'd be getting if you're the Bucks. Like even without Thompson coming back, getting Shepherd, getting Eason, those are two really strong players, two young prospects, which is what they're looking for, and then some picks too.
So let me ask you: is this now? If we're assuming everything we're talking about, the Houston Rockets should do it, probably won't do it, and the Warriors have the best package that is easy 1-to-1, it's seamless, it's lubricated, if you will, easy to go through. Do you look at the Warriors? Like, let's assume that the Warriors get Giannis before the deadline. How dangerous are the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference with Giannis Antetokounmpo, Draymond Green, Steph Curry, and Brandon Podziemski, who I guess the Warriors hate? I don't know. Like, I think hey, redheads have it hard, man. Like, he's just a confident ginger, and everybody just keeps mocking him, especially when Clay and the Splash Brother duo and Draymond were having a powwow, and he tried to come over and talk to him. But Golden State right now is 150-1 to win the finals at DraftKings. Shop around. Do I put a little on this, assuming they can get him? If they do, and it's the package we think, how dangerous is that team?
I don't think that team's going to win. Like, I think that they would put up I think it'd be very similar to last year, where it's like you can go in and win any one series, but can you go in and win 3 series? I don't think you can. So I think it'd be very similar to last season, where they got Butler, got that jolt that allowed them to win one, and kind of gave Curry some juice again. But I don't think that a team with Giannis and Draymond on the floor together makes a lot of sense to me, especially when you're giving up some of your depth. So I'm just not sure what that would look like from a floor spacing standpoint as well. Giannis is a tricky player to trade for. Like I've thought about this a lot. Like you have to have a lot of shooting around him in order to make it work. And it's not perfect for a team acquiring him in season. So I would say Golden State doesn't have a chance. Maybe grabbing 150-1 just as like a complete number grab, because that will go down to 25, 30-1 at the least. So,
oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that maybe that's why it's worth it, but I don't really think that they would have a shot at winning the title.
If I'll be a devil's advocate for a second, because he's not like the help defender and shot blocker that Brook Lopez was in the peak Milwaukee heydays, but and like you said, the spacing gets a little funky with Draymond's presence. But Steve Kerr after the game the other day was kind of all in on Al Horford being his starting center. Does Horford help that out? Like if you have Curry, you have Horford. Obviously, Podziemski would probably be the other starting guard. Are those 3 enough spacing for you to offset the lack of shooting with Draymond Green and Giannis Antetokounmpo?
I don't think so. I mean, is Podziemski also would he definitely be off the table in that trade, or would it be Kuminga and Butler straight up, or not straight up, but 2 for 1?
I don't know if he's definitely off. I mean, if you're Milwaukee, you're asking for everything. So who knows, what they're gonna offer or whatever it is. So you're right. Like if Podziemski's gone, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, what do we even have left? And if you're Golden State, I think the rebuttal then would be, okay, well then why would we make this trade? Because unlike where you're at, like the Rockets, we can say, yeah, we can kick the can down the road. The Warriors window is pretty tight. Like you want to start to do this now. You don't want to this would be a trade obviously for next year. But you're also probably trying to strike this year a little bit and seeing if you can make a run here because your window is rapidly closing with the age of your players. So I think the Warriors would probably dig their heels in. It's not like Podziemski's like some all-star, but it's just you need something in terms of backcourt depth if you're going to go ahead and ship off like Kuminga, and obviously Butler's gone. You need something else out there. So I would think that you're probably going to try to hold on to Podziemski.
Do you think that any of the teams that are looking to acquire Giannis are a Giannis away from winning the title? Like, do you think that he makes the Knicks the legitimate title contender that they probably think that they are with him?
No, especially if like OG Anunoby and Karl Anthony Towns are part of that package. Like, no, yeah. I don't think that's going to be the case. I mean, I'm trying to think. The teams that are listed as trying to get him, absolutely not. The teams that could get him but don't want to, yes. I mean, like if the Spurs go and get him, or if the Thunder, obviously, like this thing's over, and they could just buy themselves a title with all the assets they have. But I don't think that any of these teams, I think they can convince themselves that they are, and I think Golden State probably convinced itself. And there's this other aspect to it that's somewhat non-basketball related. I was talking with Mitch about this on Pod of the Futures this last week. Was it a couple days ago? The Warriors owe it to Steph Curry. I mean, They have given him bunk, and he is the best player obviously, he's their best player ever in that franchise's history, and he deserves another shot at this. And I think maybe that pushes them to think that they're a Giannis away from doing it. And in the big picture, maybe building around Giannis next year, if they handle the offseason right, yes, they are. But this year, I don't think there's a realistic place where he gets somewhere and changes like the math. Now, conference, maybe. Like if Toronto lands him, don't you think that's a team that probably leaps up to like the top 2 or 3 in the Eastern Conference, especially with Tatum now espousing that he doesn't want to come back?
Yeah, I think that the Eastern Conference, wherever he goes, probably has a really good case for being the favorite to win the Eastern Conference. But I think that, NBA title's a different story. It's funny you just brought up the Tatum thing. I was going to ask you if you saw it because it was kind of like snuck in there by Chris Haynes, who's like, I don't know if you could trust him or not when you're talking about some of the players, the newsbreakers in the league. And it came out late last night, and that changes a lot. So I just want to we'll talk about that in a second, but I just kind of wanted to mention what you said is kind of true to me, that there are a lot of teams that can get Giannis and seemingly aren't part of the conversation that I do think he would make a title contender. And 2 of them are the Cavaliers. I think that like a Mobley for Giannis swap, kind of solves your logjam at center, keeps your like identity of being like a 2 big team in a way, and it just makes you a little bit more dynamic. And I think that the Magic make a lot of sense in a Banchero for Giannis swap. I think that makes you a much better team this year, and a team that
you think so?
I do. I think that replacing Banchero with Giannis makes you a much better 2-way team. Makes a lot more sense when you're pairing with Wagner, and I just kind of think that team would be awesome. I think Banchero's a problem.
Yeah, you're right. I think that makes a little bit more sense. I think they're still somewhat offensively challenged, right? And I still think their shooting is probably a problem. But, with the emergence of Anthony Black and the fact that you still have Bane, and all of a sudden, you have getting rid of Paolo, it does make sense. I mean, how many years are we on now where he has been a net negative on the floor for the Orlando Magic? And if you're Milwaukee, you can convince yourself that, hey, we have this like young piece to maybe build around if we're moving forward. The Cavs one I like a lot. You and I have talked about this a few times when we've been on this pod, and last night again they come out there and they just blitz the Lakers because the Lakers are actually like a fake good team, and we learn it every time. Every time they run into a decent team, they just get absolutely waxed. But hey, man, they won in Chicago. They're back. But the Cavs are a team that I would assume is Darius Garland part of that, because I think you've mentioned that. And I'm blanking. It's early in the morning. Who's their young backcourt piece that is playing very well? Jalen Tyson. You can convince yourself that Tyson's like good enough for you that pairing him and Donovan Mitchell together with Giannis, and then of course Jared Allen, and then the other pieces that you have are probably good enough for the East, right? Or is Garland staying?
I feel like you could keep Garland just because I think Mobley signed that massive extension, and you could make a 1-for-1 swap work and then just throw picks at him.
I mean it from the perspective of do you if you're Milwaukee demand Darius Garland?
I think that I don't think that you do, because I don't know if the goal is becoming like an 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. But
Sure.
obviously, I guess getting Garland is better than not getting Garland. So maybe you make them take Kuzma, you take Garland, and stuff like that. Yeah, I can see that being part of it. So yeah, that makes it a little bit trickier. I mean, Kuzma, it's like getting him back in the jail makes you like further away from winning in a way. But yeah, that makes it definitely very interesting. But I do think that overall, like a Mitchell, Giannis, like Allen team is a little bit better than what they have now.
Hell yeah, dude. I mean, and look, and they're starting to get it together too, and that's the other part about them. So, if I think they now 12-4 in the last 16 games or something like that. So, yeah, they are a team that is starting to take shape here in the East. And it's funny, to zoom out a little bit, the East all of a sudden it looked like, okay, Boston might be able to pull this off, and the Knicks and hey, there's kind of the Raptors on the periphery, and all of a sudden rising from the bottom just ever so slowly, the Cavaliers and the 76ers. It might be a Thanos like, hey, all of that failure, where to bring you back to me. And it might just be an Eastern Conference where it comes down to, the Cavs and the 76ers, maybe. We'll see if that actually happens.
Yeah, I wrote about the Cavaliers the other day over at VSiN.com. Like 6-1, I ended up jumping on it. I just feel like I've seen enough now that they look a lot like the team that they were before the season when they were the betting favorites to win the Eastern Conference. And I actually have said it before to you. I've said it to Kelly. Like with Tyson emerging, I think that the rotation is going to look better in the postseason than it did last year. So just as long as they just kind of keep figuring things out, keep getting bodies back, I think that they're going to be, maybe the team to beat in this conference, which I know is a little bit crazy to say. And then I do kind of want to talk a little bit about the Tatum thing, just because I think that Boston has become a really popular pick to win the Eastern Conference.
Yes.
And now the betting favorites tied with Detroit at the top of the conference. It's going to be very challenging for them to win without Jason Tatum. So that was a huge drop from Chris Haynes last night, that if Tatum is reevaluating whether or not he should come back this season, that means you should be reevaluating whether or not you want to bet the Celtics the rest of the season.
I mean, I agree. You and I talked about this, I think, a little bit in just the individual games and like their overall profile. They're not a great defensive rebounding team. They don't force a ton of turnovers. They're pretty average on defense overall. It's just that this offense, and look, give Missoula credit. I mean, this is what they do. They don't turn the ball over. They shoot a ton of threes. They're extremely efficient. This has been very good. But like the little things that I think you need to win multiple series, get to the free throw line. They're 30th in free throw rate so far. They make their 16.5 free throws every 100 shot attempts. That's abysmal. Those are the things that I think in a series you can probably pull off, but you need an individual creator that can both get to the free throw line and actually finish for you outside of Jaylen Brown. And they just don't really have that. And I would say too, I think a lot of, because you've said it, every time I've heard somebody bring up Boston, it's always at the end with the caveat of, and if Tatum comes back, and it's like, well, we don't know if he's going to come back. And now with him talking about that potentially, and again, you don't just come back from an Achilles and plug in and just be like, cool, here we go. By the way, it's April. Now play playoff basketball, Jason. Like that's a really hard ask. So even if he does come back, I don't know if I'm there. And so I would agree that if you're kind of looking at the market overall and where you want to like hunt in the Eastern Conference, I'm trying to short Boston. I still don't really love what the Knicks have either, and so I'm trying to find different ways to do it. And to me, I keep landing on the Cavs, or I mentioned this the other day, and this is something I wanted to bring up to you too. Joel Embiid's looking pretty damn good, man. And all of a sudden, the Philadelphia 76ers, if they get right, if Embiid is healthy, and if Paul George is like your 3.5, because you have the edge come out there and you've got some pretty good backcourt depth, that is a team that at 12-1 to win the Eastern Conference, I think would be very dangerous.
Yeah, that was another one I talked about a few days ago. Like, I just kind of think that there's 4 or 5 teams in the Eastern Conference that I think can win the East, and the Sixers are the ones with the longest odds. So, like,
yep.
I do think that it's worth a shot. Like you said, like Embiid looks great. I know that he's not as explosive as he used to be, but he's still knocking down jumpers. He still has good touch, and defensively, he's looking a little bit better than he did to start the season. And as long as he's healthy in a playoff series, they're going to have a really good shot. I know that they lost to the Knicks the other night at home. Probably a loss that makes you feel like a little bit of a setback, but I do think that overall they're looking really strong. And with Boston, like, yeah, as currently constructed, like they're fun and they're good, but they're not winning the Eastern Conference. It's all about, like you said, like at the end, if Jason Tatum comes back, this team can win. And I personally, like, I don't expect Jason Tatum to look like Jason Tatum when he does come back, but what I see is like, take 25 minutes from the duo of Baylor Shireman and Jordan Walsh.
Sure.
Look like 75% of Jason Tatum, and you're making this team a much better team. I also kind of assume that if Tatum were to be coming back, they'd be buyers at the deadline looking to make a center upgrade, which there was that report yesterday that they tried to get Ivica Zubac, who I think is a perfect fit for them, not only this year, but in the future. Like, I mean, that's like a perfect center for this current roster, but got turned down. So Clippers aren't selling yet.
Can't have them. I don't care. I don't care about anything. Can't have them. Clippers are going to win the Pacific and they're going to win the West, so it doesn't matter.
All right. Well, do you want to talk about that a little bit before we get into our games? We can get all the future stuff out of the way. I just want stuff to say about the Clippers.
I just want to say that the Pacific Division does kind of stink. I mean, no offense to your Suns, but again, I will reiterate as many times as I possibly can. The Lakers are a fake good team. They're not good. Every time they run into a team that is relatively decent, they get waxed. It was again last night. They get off to a decent start in the first half. The Cavs are awful in transition defense. And then it's all of a sudden, I don't know if Atkinson tells them, like, you mother effers, will you stop? How many times are we going to allow somebody to just run free down the court by themselves and let LeBron or Luka have this court-long pass to an easy bucket? Like, wake up. And then sure enough, in the third quarter, the Cavaliers are like, oh, this team stinks on defense. Let's just torch them. And it's exactly what they did. I think that this Lakers team at the top of the division, who, by the way, now I text you guys, I don't know if I texted you guys this follow up or whatever it is. They are now 28-18 with a negative point differential. They suck. There is only two teams right now with a positive point differential, but the Clippers will soon be a third. I would expect the Warriors are going to fall off. I understand it's 6 games, but I think the Clippers are much more dangerous to potentially win this Pacific Division. They're down to 11-1 to win it, which kind of stinks because you could have gotten some long odds, but I think the division just sucks. And I think because of that, the tide will rise for the Clippers, and they'll have a much better shot at winning this division than a team usually does 6 games back at this point of the year.
Yeah, I mean, like, ignoring all of my priors from like going into the year, I think the only 2 good teams in this division are the Suns and the Clippers, and the Suns are dealing with some minor health issues right now, like kind of opening the door a little bit for the Clippers. I do think that Phoenix is probably going to win like 50 games and the Clippers will end up winning like 45, 46, but it is going to definitely be those 2 teams, in my opinion, at the top. I know that the Warriors have kind of made this a little bit tighter, playing a little bit better, but I do think that without Butler, they're going to fall a little bit. And like, I'm with you with the Lakers. Like, as good as the start was to the year, every time they face a good team, they end up losing and almost embarrassing themselves in doing so. And I do think that, like, there's really no reason to believe that they will end up being at the top of the division right now. So when you look at the odds, it's almost shocking to me that they're sitting there as the favorites.
It's funny. I keep bringing this up, but it's actually they are odd in like inverses of one another. But you know how much we bring up the Hornets and how much we love this team. The Hornets and the Lakers are mirror images of each other. Obviously you see the image reversed. The Hornets are 20-28, but with a plus 1.6 point differential. When they win, they blow opponents out. When they lose close games. The Lakers are 28-18 with a negative point differential. When they win close games, and when they lose, they get blown out. They're just it's so funny watching those 2 teams together because they are the opposites of one another. And one has all the buy signs that they should be a much better team, and that would be the Hornets. And the other has all the buy signs that they should be a terrible team, and that is the Lakers. And so, if I presented the resumes, you'd be like, oh, I'd take that team. Like, cool, that's the Hornets. And they would, right? I mean, I think they really would. And
they're better than the Lakers.
Yes. But like you said, the market is pricing the Lakers like they're, as usual, a title contender. And I think I told you this last week. Anytime they get a whiff of the Lakers maybe just being somewhat positive, market freaks out and is back in. Sorry. I mean, that opened 2.5 yesterday. You tell me the Lakers are on the same power rating level as the Cleveland Cavaliers, even without Evan Mobley and Darius Garland? No shot. And sure enough, they smoked them.
Yeah, and the defense is awful. The offense doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, I keep seeing the stuff about maybe they'll go out and get Wiggins, who I actually do think is a really good player for them, just because I think he's kind of good for right now, but also 30 years old and like a good Luka sidekick type of player, because he's just solid defender, good at pretty much everything offensively. I wouldn't mind them going out and making that type of move, but there's really nothing out there for them that will completely change the complexion of the team unless it's a move for Reeves. And it doesn't sound like they want to move Reeves. So that team looks really fraudulent to me at the top of the Pacific. I think the Suns and Clippers are both really strong teams. It's funny. Like, I've compared Phoenix to like Indiana all year because of like just how many dudes they have in their rotation that they can play. And, they're kind of heliocentric around Booker and just have like a different type of role player for everything. They really would be Pacers. Like, if they were in the Eastern Conference, they'd be the best team of the East.
Can I really really quick before we move on, I wanted to ask you this, and then because I know we have to go. So you can at DraftKings and other spots, you can parlay the play-in team so to participate in the play-in, right? How likely is it that our top? I'll start with this question first. In the Western Conference, pretty certain that these are our top 10, right?
I think so, especially if the Grizzlies are going to move Ja and not try to bring him back. I think that they will be out of there. But I do think that, we're probably looking at the 10 teams in the playoffs in the West.
Because obviously I think the candidate to fall out of the top 10, I don't want to put words in your mouth, would be Portland. Is that what we're thinking?
Yeah, or if I would have said Golden State like 3 days ago, but I feel like they might be fine.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think they're going to just hover around good enough to be just there. And like you said, if Ja moves, if he doesn't, this kind of muddies the waters a bit. The Clippers have had 3.5 game leads. So do the Portland Trailblazers over the 11th place team, Dallas Mavericks and Memphis Grizzlies, who are tied right now. Anyway, my whole point here being is if we kind of believe that, and it seems like there's a pretty firm ceiling for like Golden State, Portland, and the Los Angeles Clippers to stay there, even though I just made the case for them to win the to win the Pacific Division. I'm curious to see, like, would you put some of these parlays together and try to zero in on what some of these play-in teams would be? It's a big price, but like a parlay of Clippers, Warriors, Trailblazers to participate in the play-in is like minus 220. I'm trying to mess with different ways to play with this because I feel quite certain these are going to be our top 10, just different ways to kind of lock this in. So just something to look at, because those odds are just going to get more and more, not long, excuse me, they're going to get shorter for these teams in the play-in picture right now.
Would a Giannis move to Golden State make you think that they're going to be top 6? Because that's on the table to me.
Yeah. They're only two games back, so I would say that makes it pretty likely. And the Timberwolves, I mean, they've won 2 straight, but they've kind of, I don't know what the hell's going on with them. They've kind of slipped up a little bit. So I think there's a case that's what makes it a little dangerous. These and that's why I didn't want to include your Suns. I mean, I feel like your Suns might be a play-in team, but they're right there on the edge. They're only a half game out, so they go on a little winning streak, and all of a sudden they're the 5 seed.
What is Lakers, Blazers, Clippers?
Lakers, Blazers, Clippers. Give me 2 seconds. I have this up right now.
I feel like they can very well fall out of the top 6.
That gets you to plus 230.
Yeah, that's pretty good, I think. But.
Right? So like that, something like that. But the fact that you can parlay these kind of made me think like, oh, there's probably something to mess with here. And I would agree with you. Like if we're selling on the Lakers, if we think they're frauds, like they're plus 160 to participate in the play-in, I think that alone might be worth just playing by itself. But parlaying that with even like a Clippers Lakers participate in the play-in, that gives you 205. So you remove the Portland Trailblazers as what we think to be the most likely candidate to slip out of these play-in teams. And when I say slip out, I mean obviously to the under 10. And if that's the case, asking both LA teams to participate in the play-in at plus 205 seems like a pretty good play.
Yeah. All right. Anything else in the futures market or big picture you want to get into before we move on to the games tonight?
Nope. I think we hit everything that I had on my mind.
All right, well, now's a good time to say that we're getting ready for Big Game 60 with a big deal to match. Save $60 off a VSiN Pro annual subscription when you sign up using promo code HARDWOOD, all one word. Become a VSiN Pro annual subscriber and bet smarter all year long with full access to our daily best bets from VSiN hosts and guests, real-time DraftKings and Circa betting splits, AI-powered prop tools and matchup analysis, 24/7 video and full show replays on the VSiN Watch app, plus all of our betting guides and expert picks for the Super Bowl and upcoming March Madness. Don't miss out on this big game deal. Visit vsin.com/subscribe and use promo code HARDWOOD to save $60 off a VSiN Pro annual subscription today. That's vsin.com/subscribe and HARDWOOD, HARDWOOD. Let's get into the picks for tonight now. We have 7 between the two of us, so if you waited this long, you are getting exactly what you wanted, and we'll start with this Bucks-Wizards game, which tips at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Ooh, yeah.
The Bucks are 2.5-point favorites. The total is 222.5, and I have a play on this game.
Okay.
I don't know what you're going to think about it, but I have Washington on the money line at plus 120, and I'm really just hoping for some good luck with Alex Sarr on the injury report. Last night, I got kind of screwed by Cooper Flagg not playing for Dallas and ended up stuck with a really big play on the Mavericks with a bad number, but I do think Sarr will end up playing tonight. And this is a game where I just can't understand the number. I feel like you look at Milwaukee without Giannis as one of the worst teams in the league. Say what you want about Washington. They might be one of the worst teams in the league, but they're at least a talented bad team. And there's a difference between a talented bad team and just a bad team. And I do think that Washington should win this game if Sarr is out there. I mean, this is a team that's coming off a straight up win over Portland as a 6.5 point underdog the other day. Their guards are starting to look really, really good, especially Trey Johnson, who I think is looking like one of the better rookies in the league right now. And Sarr, when he is out there, is one of the better two-way players in the league also. So I just kind of think that they are a better team than Milwaukee, which has lost, three games in a row and 6 of the last 7.
Thank God you had this, because I know we were only doing plays. Washington was there for me. It was one of those where I didn't get it. I didn't get what I was missing. The -3 at the open, down to 2.5. It's officially an ad for me as well then, because I completely agree with every single point that you're making here. The Bucks are a rudderless ship right now. I don't understand why you would power rate them to the point where they're above this, and I like the way you put it. Washington might be bad, but there's a lot of upside on that roster. So I would completely be in this camp. I was definitely on my card, and I was hoping you would have something so I could ask you about it, and you hit it on the head. So let's go. Friendship play. I would agree with everything. Wizards, money. I'll take a little 2.5, and I'll put a little on the money line as well.
Yeah, and they're bad, whatever, but they have been growing a little bit. They've covered in 4 of their last 5. They won that last one outright, at least attempting to win games. And that's all I need when I'm looking at a matchup between 2 bad teams.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, on to Rockets Hawks we go. This game tips at 8 p.m. Eastern. The Rockets are 3.5 point favorites. The total's 224.5. And I know you have 2 plays on this one. I also have one. Hit us with yours first.
Yeah, you know what? I'll take the low-hanging fruit. Give me Atlanta here, catching the points at home. As we know, they're a better defensive team without Trae Young. That has been evident. They've won. I think they're 6-4 since they traded Trae Young or something like that. They're up. They've been playing relatively well. I also just think, not that the book is out here on this Rockets squad, but they're a good enough defensive team that they're going to play them relatively similar. They're going to help off Thompson. They're going to be in a good enough spot to, I think, defend at a high level and muck this game up. It also leads me to playing this game under the total. I know that the Hawks want to get out and run to kind of supplement their offense. I think the Rockets are good enough to keep that from happening. I think this could be a pretty ugly rock fight between the two of them, to be quite honest. And I think that lends itself to Atlanta staying inside of this number. So I'll trust it. The Rockets are kind of skidding at this point right now when you look at the way they're playing on offense, and there doesn't seem to be many answers coming around the corner with the way that they run their stuff. So having covered consecutive games, Houston has, and of course they've failed to cover their last few, but having covered consecutive games since Christmas, if you zoom out here quite a bit, we're talking about a team that I believe is 3-10 against the spread in the last 13, somewhere in that range. So give me Atlanta at home, catch some points. I'll take it, even on the second leg of a back-to-back after a big win over Boston.
Yeah, I leaned Hawks here as well, so I definitely don't fault you for making this play, and under looks like the right call to me when looking at the total, so definitely think that you're onto something there. I ended up taking Alperen Şengün over 36.5 points, rebounds, and assists at plus 100. This is just one where the Hawks are 26th in the NBA defending at the rim. We know Şengün does a lot of good work around the basket, 50% of his points come at the rim, and then just also inside 10 feet. He scores 70% of his points, and this Hawks team is very bad there as well. And Atlanta's also a weak isolation defense. They're not a great rebounding team, so I do think that this is going to be a game where Şengün kind of posts a lot of numbers, but I do kind of wonder. There's no chance Porzingis comes back tonight, is there? It does seem like they're. I think it's coming soon, if not. Okay, it's soon if it's not tonight. That would be the one thing that would scare me a little bit, is that they would get a little bit bigger. But as of right now, I like him going to work against Okongwu, who's missing half of his teeth.
Yep. Yeah. I would agree with all points here. And I think the other part about this too, with Houston is obviously they've kind of struggled on the road. That's been a big part of what we have seen from them. Their adjusted win total, if you will, or their expected win total on the road, I think we talked about this last time, probably should be a little bit better, but for whatever reason, they have had these issues away from home for Houston. Now 12-13 away from home, haven't really been covering numbers. So that's also part of the equation here as well.
Yep. Okay, let's move on now to Heat Bulls at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Ooh, I had
Heat
something
are
here.
1.5. You have something here?
Well, I have an opinion here, so I'm curious to see. Okay. This might be another Wizards Bucks thing.
I don't think it's gonna. But okay, we'll talk about it. Heat are 1.5 point favorites. Totals 239.5. I don't have a side or a total, so that's where you thought I was going.
Oh, okay. I was going to say the second you said that's probably like Davion Mitchell over 2.5 assists or something.
I should have looked at Davion Mitchell. No, I'm going back to Kobe White to have 20 plus points. I lost on this last night. I do think though that this is a much better matchup for him. I got this at minus 125. I think it's still out there at minus 125. And I just think that this is a game where he really should find a way to impact it as a scorer. He had 22 plus in 5 straight before going under last night, having 14. And like I said, the matchup's a little better. Miami's a bottom 10 defense when talking about above the break threes. That's where White really likes to get himself going from beyond the 3-point line. And they are not a very good defense inside 10 feet either. And White has gotten a lot better attacking the basket. And Miami has also struggled this season guarding both in isolation and guarding pick and roll ball handlers. And I do think that White's going to get some opportunities to kind of run the show a little bit for the Bulls. And also, I think that Miami's been a weak team in transition this year too, or not terrible, but below average for sure. And that's where White can kind of burn you with like a stop and pop 3 here or stop and pop 3 there. And I just think that this is going to be a game where he gets himself back, to scoring 20 plus.
No, I would agree with that. I mean, obviously, the pace at which it's going to be played is going to help him out, so there's going to be more opportunities. The injury report for Chicago, too, ball handlers out there and backcourt pieces that are out here, Giddey, Herter among them. So I would agree with that. I think it makes a lot of sense. My thought was I was with the market because this open Bulls minus 1.5. Heat are now favored on the road. It's all hands on deck. Everybody listed on the injury report outside of Terry Rozier is listed as available for Miami today. So we're going to get like the best version. Tyler Hero's back. So just figured this would be a spot to potentially back Miami on the road against Chicago. That was my only thought.
I was looking that way as well. So like maybe it's something that I end up adding later or throw into some parlays with like an alternate or something. But
sure.
I was looking at the Heat as well because I did notice that Hero was back, and that's kind of what they desperately need before they trade for Giannis, of course. But I do think that they're going to look a little bit better now.
Bam and Giannis, that's a good front court for spacing for sure.
I tell you, every team that's rumored to have him is going to be having a clunky fit at 4-5.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's move on now to Hornets at Mavericks. We both have plays on this game. The Hornets are 4.5-point favorites. Total's 227.5. What do you have here?
Hornets, man. They are a team that is playing at the level of some of the best in the Eastern Conference. They come in here. They have won 4 straight. They can smell blood. This is a terrible situation for them. I'm going to go with Dallas here tonight. 3rd game in 4 nights, 2nd leg of a back-to-back for Charlotte. And it's not a great scheduling spot for Dallas, but Klay Thompson is going to play today. Jason Kidd told the media that yesterday after missing the game last night. I would expect that Cooper Flagg is going to play today too. So this is kind of a guessing game a little bit as well, but the fact that this is such a poor spot for the Hornets and the fact that I'm going to get some guys back on the floor for Dallas that didn't play yesterday, I think gives them a pretty solid edge as well. So it kind of negates the effects of this situation for the Mavericks. It's just purely a scheduling situational spot for me. Give me Dallas here against the Charlotte Hornets, catching 4.5. And it's also a little bit of a sell high on Charlotte. Look, the power rating's rising. They flipped, rightfully so, to a road favorite last night against Memphis and took care of business. And here they are again laying an even bigger number against Dallas. I think all of those things together get me on the side of fading my beloved Hornets, our beloved Hornets. So, yeah, give me Dallas here plus 4.5.
Yeah, I do think that the Mavericks will get Flagg back. I feel like it was the type of this thing where they were like, we have a better chance of winning tomorrow night. Let's just hold Flagg and play him tomorrow. And Dallas, if you want to consider this, they've been very good against good teams this year. That trend applies to teams with winning records. But if you want to go and say that Charlotte's been a really good team and the record doesn't apply, maybe that's
what about teams with positive point differentials, huh? Yeah, see, those are winning teams.
I should have back into do something like that. I should ask him. But my play in this game is Moussa Diabate to have a double-double. That's plus 220. He's had 10-plus points in 4 straight games. The Mavericks are 27th in the NBA defending at the rim. It's funny, this team, going into the season, was like supposed to be massive and unbelievable at guarding the rim. They lost all their centers. They're down to just Gaffer now, and now it's easy to score at the rim against them. So I do think Diabate will end up, having some play finishes as a pick and roll, big. And I think he'll have some putbacks. This has been the 2nd worst team in the league, Dallas. Defending putbacks, so just a weak defensive rebounding team, and Diabate 9.2 rebounds per game over the last 10. So there's a real chance he does end up getting with 10 plus. I started looking at this game and was like, I kind of like over 9.5 points. I kind of like over 9.5 rebounds at plus 220 for both. I think there's a really good shot. He's had a double-double in 2 of the last 3 games. So this is a smaller play for me. I only put a half unit on it, but I do think it's a pretty good number.
Yep, I think that all makes sense, and he's kind of part of this emerging lineup. I know we talk about the trio of LaMelo and Brandon Miller and Con Knipple. But ever since he's been filmed in that, experimental drug ad with him and LaMelo in slow motion, he's really emerged as like kind of that core four for them. He's been very, very good.
Yep. Yeah, I think that it was supposed to be Kalkbrenner to start the year. Diabate is supposed to be like the energy big off the bench, and they've just realized that they can start him. He's awesome.
Dude, he's super athletic, lob threat, all that kind of stuff. Like, he's great.
Yep, and Eric Collins loves him because he brings the energy, and Collins, he doesn't need more energy, but he gets him going a little bit more. All right, let's move on now. This is the final game we're going to talk about because this is the only one where we have a play the rest of the night. It's also the last game of the night, so that helps too. But 9:30 p.m. Eastern tip. The Timberwolves are hosting the Thunder. OKC's a 6.5 point favorite. Totals 224.5. What do you have here?
So I will say sidewise, I'm tempted to take the Timberwolves. I want to see what the injury report looks like for them as well here. So we'll see if that, emerges to the point where it's going to be something worth playing. Obviously, Isaiah Hartenstein is back for Oklahoma City, so that does play a role into what I'm thinking. And, of course, Casey Wallace is questionable. But with Hartenstein out there, I think they're going to go back to this double big that they want to play. And when Hartenstein's out there as well, if you look at some of the numbers, and I think it makes some sense, opponent three-point frequency goes up by about 1.5% or so. So opponents are taking more threes, makes more sense, right? You have two bigs that are maybe cutting off the basket, and I think that's going to lead Anthony Edwards tonight to go, you know what, let me try to get this done from the perimeter. If Casey Wallace doesn't play, that backcourt all of a sudden becomes extremely thin, and you can go after a couple of these guys if you want to in some matchups. And I think that Edwards, oddly enough, the last two games, he hasn't taken a ton of threes, but we know exactly what he'll put up here. And I thought over 2.5 made threes at minus 140, 142 was a fair price. I know it's a little juicy, but he should put the attempts up here, and especially with the deterrent that is Isaiah Hartenstein in that big backcourt, I think he's going to be more prone to taking some jumpers, and that leads him to get into 3 or more three-point attempts made tonight.
We're going to make that a friendship play because also OKC, the way that they're built their entire defense is to dare you to shoot over the top. And Edwards is not going to be shy about doing that. And he has turned into a top 5 shooter in the league, when factoring in everything, catch and shoot and off the dribble. So I think this is a good look for you. And I do think that this was a game where I was kind of considering the Thunder just because it's one of the only rest advantages on the entire schedule for tonight where it's, I think it's 3 and 4 nights on a back-to-back for Minnesota. Thunder didn't play last night. It is a favorable spot for them, but I can't do it because Minnesota's just a weird team, man. They play well against good teams. They play awful against bad teams. And until they kind of stabilize that guard position with a move, I think it's going to continue to look like that, but it's still a team that overall I can't quit them. I think that they are kind of on the fringe of being a tier 1 team in the Western Conference. I think that they are kind of right there with the Spurs, in my opinion, even though the body of work and the advanced numbers might not back that up, 100%.
I would agree. I like the I can't quit them thing. I added them. We've talked about that. I have them at 20-1 to win the Western Conference. The upside's there if they start to figure it out. So I would agree with that sentiment with what this team has.
And the one I'm desperate for them to get Kobe White. That's the guy, I think. If you could get him, because he could play some point, he could play a little bit off ball if you want to continue to run with Edwards at the 1. And I just absolutely love that fit, just adding a player like him who just a complete spark plug. I think he'd be awesome there, but I guess it depends what you'd have to give up. I'm fine with them trading Conley, but I know that, you hear a lot of smarter people on the Hoop Collective and Zach Lowe saying that they respect Conley almost too much to move him to a losing team.
I hate that. Screw it. We're trying to win, dude.
I know. Chicago's a good market. It's not the worst thing in the world. And if they want, they could work out a buyout. They could figure something out. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I would like to add, because I don't know why this just popped into my mind, because I forgot to mention this when we were talking about the Hawks and the Rockets game. But I would just like to point out, statistically, CJ McCollum has been a very big positive for that team on the floor. So, their net rating with him on the floor is plus 10.7 or something like that.
Which is shocking because he was just killing the Wizards when I was watching them. I don't know. And I know
there's a lot of noise in those numbers, so you could be right.
There is, and I know that Hawks fans early on were blaming Jalen Johnson, had a slight dip when the move first happened. They were like, "Oh, CJ McCollum got Jalen now."
Yeah,
I don't know. I am a Hawks hater now, though. I told you because I'm I don't know why I've become a Trae Young guy, and I feel like he was scapegoated there, and their up and down play since moving him feels almost deserved. But I know that they're going to end up getting a Peterson or Kingston Flemings. So they're going to end up with a great position at point guard because this draft is loaded with on-ball prospects.
Yep, I would agree. I was going to say something, but I can't remember, so we'll move on.
All right. You were probably going to say that attention to any listeners who are new to VSiN.
Yes.
Signing up for our free daily newsletter is a great way to catch up. Delivered straight to your inbox every morning, VSiN's newsletter offers picks, data, and strategies for the day's betting menu. Sign up for free now at vsin.com/newsletter and start receiving your free newsletter tomorrow morning. That's vsin.com/newsletter. Stay ahead of the game and bet smarter with VSiN. All right. We are going to wrap this up right now. JVT, you want to give the people your 3 plays?
Yep. Added the friendship play, Wizards plus the 2.5 and a little on the money line. Hawks plus 3.5, Hawks Rockets under 225, Mavericks plus 4.5, and Anthony Edwards over 2.5 3-pointers at minus 142.
Okay. I'm going to add the Edwards play, by the way. It's over. I could get minus 143. It's getting up there, though. It's like minus 160 in a lot of places. So
sure.
you might be moving the line as Preston bets this like crazy.
Just hammering it.
Yeah, that's our producer, Preston. But yeah, I'm going to take Edwards over 2.5 threes with you. I have the Wizards money line plus 120 versus the Bucks. Alperen Şengün over 36.5 points, rebounds, and assists at plus 100 versus the Hawks. Kobe White, 20-plus points at minus 125 versus the Heat. And I worded it like that because the total was 20.5. But if you take like an alternate at 20-plus, the number isn't that bad. So definitely look out for that. And then I have Moussa Diabate to have a double-double at plus 220 at 0.5 units risked against the Mavericks. So 5 plays for me, 4 for JVT. A packed episode today. Hopefully you enjoyed our banter at the beginning. When Giannis is on the move or potentially on the move, you got to talk about it. I don't know what to tell you. So if it's not a basketball show if you're not talking Giannis and talking trades. So that's what we were doing here, and let's hopefully hit some of these picks tonight. And we will hopefully be joined by Kelly Bidlin on Friday, and then next week. Is it next week for the trade deadline? We are going to have a reunion episode with me, JVT, and Kelly all on together, the old, Hardwood Handicappers gang, talking through all the trades, all the potential trades, some trades we'd like to see, everything. We'll do like a big trade deadline special, and hopefully that'll be a lot of fun. But good luck with your bets tonight, and make sure you join us for a Friday edition of Hardwood Handicappers.